Welcome to her Untold story. I'm gonna let Instagram let you guys know that we are live. Hi, happy Wednesday. How you guys all doing? I hope you guys are well. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of her Untold story. Apologies, we started a bit late. I had a little bit of technical mishap, but we're fine now. So thank you for joining us. Welcome to her Untold story. This is a platform, an initiative where we as women get to glean from the stories of other women, because we believe that one woman's story is another woman's transformation. So on here at our Untold stories, we hear the stories of amazing women who are navigating life, and they're still thriving in whatever field they are doing, in whatever circumstance they find themselves. They are still thriving. So we come here to hear the stories of these women, so that some other woman can know that one day or another alone too, they can navigate whatever life throws at them, because we believe that life is always life in us, and life has hands, but the way that we deal and navigate the hands that life gives us is through the inspiration of other people, is through the experiences of other people, because success always leaves clues. So thank you for hanging out with us today. We have an amazing guest. Her story is so inspirational, and I know that you are going to learn something from today's guest. Without further ado, let us invite our guest for today. I think she's already live. I'm so excited because her story is so inspirational. You just sit back and learn and glean from this amazing story, from this inspirational woman. Is it working? Is it working? Oh my God. Is it working? Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. Can you see me? I feel like
You might need to, I don't know if it's move back, because your head is a bit cut off.
is that me? That's me, right? Maybe. There we go.
That's better. And now I look. Let's see. That.
Okay.
Yeah, we. Yes. Hi, thank you so much. I'm so honored for you agreeing to be on these series and just sharing your story. Like I said, we're here just hearing amazing untold stories from women just like you and me, who have navigated life, and life been life in us, but we are thriving in our own lane, more like and trying to get through life. And that is what the connection and the story is about. That somebody else would say, if Sade can go through that, then I can do it too. If Ella can go through it, I can do it too. Because there's always loneliness in the place of change, in the place of navigating anything new in life. But the aim is that your change and my experience, somebody else doesn't have to, it doesn't have to take them that long for them to go through the change, because they can see that, oh, she went through and this is what she did. They can modify it, tweak it, and as long as it works in their own lane, it's all a win for us all. So thank you. We're so honored that you're sharing your story with us today. So like we always start with knowing a bit about our guests. So just tell us about Sade. Who is Sade? What is your story? And then we'll get into like your transition story, your change story. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, thanks so much for reaching out, Ella. I'm so excited to be on here. I love what you're doing. I think it's so important. We need to hear more stories, that we don't feel alone in this life that we have to go through. So I am Sade Thomas. I am a registered holistic nutritionist. However, I actually was in fashion for about 16 years, maybe even a little bit longer. Yes. And so my background is in senior leadership, but minus all of the professional stuff, in terms of myself, something that's important to me is travel, family, food. And so no surprise that I'm a nutritionist, but I like good food with a lot of flavor. I have a Trini background, so we love our pepper sauce, we love our green seasoning. There's got to be flavor. So yeah, born in Trinidad, raised in Canada. I lived in New York City for a while. I did some traveling in Europe as well as Southeast Asia. Love to learn. I am forever going to be I would say, a student. I think it's really important to learn. One, it keeps us on our toes, but also it really helps us navigate this thing called life as well. So growing up, in a West Indian household, there are certain things that we weren't taught, and certain things, conflict resolution, how to communicate effectively. Of course, going back to my passion, which is health and wellness, it's like, how do we take care of ourselves? And especially as Black women navigating this world, there's also that on top of there as well. So yeah, it's a bit about me. Love walks, love to hike. I love being outdoors. On top of a mountain, ideally, would be amazing. Love the beach. If I remember someone asked me, like, what is your perfect, day for your birthday? And I was like, I just want to spend the full day at the beach. And so that's what we did. And, very low key, I know. And I'm a simple-ish gal when it comes to certain things. And so, yeah, that's me.
Oh, that's. I mean, I was like, this is just. It's simple, but it's like a simple. It's a little bit. It's elegant, but it's relatable. It's not too much. It's just like she just likes the simple things of life, but she's holding it down over there in the simple lane. That is so amazing. Thank you for sharing that amazing story with us. So let's talk about because I know a little bit about your background, so I'm not going to let that out. I want you to share your story by yourself. So how did you navigate the changes that brought you to exactly where you are right now at this stage of your life as nutrition? Because I've really wondered how does it work in that world? Because we all talk about life coaches, we talk about this coach and that coach, but no one really talks about thinking about your health, what you put in your mouth. People always say I'm a sucker for drinking the rubbish stuff, but I think it's just I like to try it. It's nice. So tell us, how did you get to where you are in your business and working for yourself? And I know you said you were in leadership for a long time as well.
Yeah. So I always had a passion for fashion. I always loved and wanted to actually work in the magazine space. That was always a dream of mine from young. And so I would be on, well, it wasn't Pinterest, it's Tumblr. So I don't know if people know Tumblr, but yeah, Tumblr was my jam, and I would love to be on. I loved being on Tumblr. Loved looking Fashion Week, and so when I went through university, it was interesting. I love fashion, but I went to school for psychology. Doesn't make any sense. I know. We started off in business, and then we pivoted to psychology. But here's the thing, come full circle, look at the work I'm doing. So I think deep down, I already knew I wanted to work with people to better themselves, to help with their self-development. And so what I did while I was in senior leadership was I hired, trained, developed teams of highly effective individuals to get them to their potential, right? So whatever that meant, did they want to do leadership? Did they want to go into our head office and work in marketing? And so I was really there alongside them to support them during their growth. Fast forward 10 years of an amazing, career. I got to a point where I was loving what I was doing, but the passion wasn't as it was, let's say year 5. And at this point, I had made it further than I ever thought I would, because I thought this was going to be a part-time job. I would do it while I was in university, and then I would move on and get a big girl job. But I loved my team. I loved the company. I loved who I was working with. I was learning so much. I was growing so much. When I look back at it, I actually had my own mini stores. I ran the stores as I would a business, right? I had the autonomy. It was the as an outsider looking in, it was the perfect situation to be in. But once I got to year 10, I really sat down and I said, okay, who is Sade? Like, who is Sade minus her title, right? And minus this amazing brand and business behind her. And I couldn't answer the question. And so I got a great opportunity and I moved, to take on this great opportunity. And I was forced, if you will, to really spend time by myself. And that's when my self-development really started. And I realized, I had a very high-paced, high-stress job, but I didn't necessarily have coping skills. So, started to go into therapy, started doing yoga, started doing meditation. And these were things that I never did. So for 10 years, I'm going through climbing the corporate ladder, but I wasn't well. I wasn't whole. So, and how I knew that was I would have stomach issues. I would be in the emergency room a couple times a year. I had all of these health issues that I had going on, in which doctors would say to me, oh, you're okay, it's just stress. Because they would ask you, right, what do you eat? What do you do for work? And, oh, that's a very stressful job. Well, you eat well, you look well, right? And so I would just make sure you stress less, here's some gas X, and kind of move me along. But I remember going to the doctor once and I literally was just bloated, looked 6 months pregnant, like it was just not good, uncomfortable, couldn't eat. I had really bad acne, like all over my face and no answers. So when I decided to take off that time, due to what I now know is burnout, I really dove into some literature. I got to blogs, Google. I went and I bought books at our bookstore. And I started just reading about the body. I started to find out that there's foods that we should and should not be eating. There are foods that you can eat to heal your body. So then, of course, I went straight to what are the foods to help with my gut issues? So bloating, constipation, pain, like whatever. And I just ate that stuff up. And then I started to, I looked into school, because again, like I said, I'm a student, like always. So I find something I'm passionate about. I want to learn more. I want to invest in myself. I decided to go back to school and to become a registered holistic nutritionist. Or certified nutritional practitioner is what the designation is. And it was really just an investment in myself. I was at the point where I was, okay, no one else is going to do this for me, then I am going to do it myself. And that's what I did. In regards to why probably nutritionist versus dietitian, I loved that the holistic nutritionist looked at the body as a whole. So they talked about food, but then they also did talk about your mindset. They talked about that spiritual practice that you have. They talked about sleep. And, before I would come home from work, I'd pour myself 1, 2, 3, 4 glasses of wine, to wind down. I'd sleep at midnight, I'd wake up at 8, I'd rinse, repeat, and do that Monday to Friday. And so I didn't know that was my sleep, and then also how I was winding down was affecting my body. And then on top of that, I didn't necessarily have a way to, so instead of the alcohol, what else can I do that's actually going to help benefit my body? And so I learned about journaling. And then at that time, at the beginning, I said it was more of the yoga and more of the meditation. But a year or two into my journey, I actually, what I went back to, was getting saved and following, and following my faith and getting back rooted in that. And that was a huge part as well, because one, it gave me a, community that I could speak to and that could relate to me. And then two, it also was a way for me to ensure that I had a practice in the morning. So holistic nutrition taught me, I would say it taught me a lot about myself. And it gave me a lot of those questions that were missing in regards to, okay, how am I waking up in the morning? Who am I surrounded with? What am I putting in my body? Of course, how am I moving my body? And it became this passion of mine. And I started my Instagram page. I started talking about it. I started talking about chia seeds and gut health and turmeric. And people were like, what are you talking about? I'm like making cheese out of cashews. And, it just became something that was once an investment. People started asking how they could work with me. And I started to have I had a meal plan service. And then I started coaching clients, and then I would get asked to speak, and then I would get asked to do content creation. This is all in 2016, 17, when it wasn't, as it is now. And so that's really how it started. And at the time, I still was working, corporate, still working there. And then it wasn't until last year, actually, so July 23rd is when I left corporate full-time to pursue this. Yes, that I'm doing right now. And that's the condensed version of how we got here. But most of the important parts were in that story. I would say, it came from a place of burnout, looking in terms of, who I am, finding a passion for health and wellness to better myself. And then, that passion turned into me wanting to educate and work with others, because there are so many women. I work with women who do, whether they're entrepreneurs or executives who are like on the go all the time. What do I eat? I don't feel great. Can't sleep, not going to the washroom, then not eating. And so I've lived that life. And, at times, sometimes, because I'm human, it's like you could easily slip back into that. And so, so this would be, this would be 1 year that I've been, I left my job in a year. I left my job last year, but I traveled for about 8 months. So I traveled for about 8 months, and then I really started in March, April, if I'm being honest. But I had to take time off, right? There's that transition piece from going from somewhere that in and out to somewhere that's so new. I also lived in New York at the time, which, also new city, and then but home is Vancouver. So there was a lot going on. So I made sure and I gave myself the time to rest, to connect. I spent, 3 months back in Trinidad, which I hadn't done since I was very young, since I left actually. And so I just was making sure I was filling my cup up first before I dove in to then support others.
Oh my God, that is such a packed and full story. And I'm just sitting here writing. I'm like, oh my God, she did that. I mean, you started at first by saying that the first thing that I'm sure a lot of us can relate with is the fact that when you're doing something over and over again, and it's kind of like your everyday life, and you're doing it for 5, 10, 1, 2, number of years, that most times you get lost in it, and then you have to start asking yourself the question, like reconnecting with you to say, who am I in the midst of all of this noise? And I remember you talked about, I was writing it down, and it was like, she talked about finding herself. And then you talked about the steps that you took to really get connected, figure out what was making you feel, even though like it looked good on the outside, but inside you weren't feeling really good. But then you started making that connection between what you're putting into your body with how your body was reacting to the environment. So I would want to ask, for that woman who is in that place of maybe not comfort, but just in that place of routine. I go to work, I've been doing this job for 15 years, or I've been in this place for 15 years, but I know that I'm lonely there, because I'm like feeling like, who am I? How do they begin to connect that dot for them to get to the place of clarity where you are right now? Like, say, okay, I've taken the leap to get out of the job. I want to go traveling. But how do you start? You at that foot of the bridge. How does that woman start to connect these dots?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I would say we have to slow down. We are energized. I know it's not the most profound, but we've got to slow down. If I, did not sit and think and ask I'm trying to think where this question. I remember, oh yes, it was I'm like, how did I forget this? But it was a panic attack actually that kind of started this. So I never thought about anxiety or anything like that, but I remember quite distinctly, I was getting ready to go to work and I ended up feeling tightness in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I was like, what is happening? And I was in Calgary by myself. My partner was in Vancouver. And it was a scary feeling. I remember calling my mom first and, I'm talking to her and and she's praying over me. And then I called the partner at the time. Of course, there was a difference, not awake. So then I called my therapist and, they were talking to me in terms I made a lot of calls obviously before. So I kind of got out of the anxiety stage, but that's what started it. And when she asked me, hey, like, what are your coping, she kind of asked me to go through like my week, like what was happening. And she said, you've had a lot of transition in the last couple of months. Like, what have you done? Or what do you do to cope with these things? And I said, nothing. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I come home, I have a glass of wine, and I go to sleep, and I wake up and I do it again. And that was what made me think, yeah, what are my coping mechanisms? And so I guess to answer your question, it's having I think therapy is important. I think having someone that is unbiased outside of your circle and someone that's trained is really important. And so, because they're going to ask you questions that you're not asking yourself. And so once you do that, then it is the idea of sitting with yourself and writing down, journaling, being quiet and being still. Honestly, I think that's the biggest thing in this world. And I mean, like I said, I was going full steam ahead for 10 years and then I hit a block. And that's what really got me to sit down. And if you ask me, even in terms of how I worked out, I would do high intensity training. Everything was go, 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 fast, fast, fast. And I never sat and said, okay, how was that workout? I wouldn't sit and eat. I wouldn't sit and say, how do I feel after that meal? I would hang out with people and I'm like, how was that interaction? How am I leaving it? Am I leaving it filled up? Am I leaving it, because we spoke life into each other? Am I leaving it, or am I leaving deflated? Like, I literally ask myself now, but that came from, so if that was 2014, like almost 10 years, of practice, but it became for me a practice. So in the morning, I would not look at my phone. I would, and this is someone who had two phones, was working 24/7, but I made a commitment to myself. I was not going to look at my phone. I was going to give that first time in the morning to myself. So I journaled, I started doing my devotionals. I would pray, I would move my body in a way that felt good. And most of the time it was honestly stretching. And it wasn't about, doing the high intensity stuff. It was really just about feeling good in my body so that I could then go and serve for.
Okay, I think we
Counselor, and there's so many great options now out there, which is amazing. And then also slowing down, taking the time for yourself, and finding a practice that works for you, both movement as well as a spiritual practice. And then from a diet perspective, in terms of what we put into our mouth and into our bodies, pardon me, I would say the same thing. When you're eating, and if you do you suffer with any type of anything from acne to bloating to joint pain to brain fog to PMS, anything, what I recommend, doing a food diary, right? It's amazing how when we write things down, things become clear. And so writing down what you ate and then waiting for a bit and then how you felt. And you're going to be able to really discover and uncover what's going on. And also you're equipped when you go see that naturopath, when you go to the doctor. No one's telling you how you feel. You're like, no, I got the receipts, right? And so, and this is what's happening.
I can relate to that because this is stuff coming from someone who has PMS, really bad one. So I should be, because I noticed that as well, that when I'm mindful or intentional about what I put in my mouth, it's not so bad that month. I haven't been quite able to get rid of it altogether, but I'm working my way. I would think that I'm doing a better job. So I know that we've talked about the connecting with yourself, like asking yourself, slowing down and being silent so that you can connect with yourself. So when you got to that point, how did you get off to that other side of saying, I want to do this as a business? Meanwhile, after you've worked, because I'm an ex-corporate girl as well, and just knowing that, that's safe, the salary is coming and it's a safe environment, not too much. There's no known risk, like, the entrepreneurship route, how did you jump? How did you make that transition from something that you were comfortable with to like the unknown, and know that you're still going through that transition, but to that woman who's at that edge of being in that place where they're like, it's time to live, but I'm afraid of the other side because it looks a bit more risky.
Right.
How did you get to that point where you're like, I'm gonna jump?
Yeah, I did it, and I did it in regards to, I did it with some, I would say, having a cushion was definitely something that made it easier. So financially for me, like, to be honest, that was something, but mentally it was something that I was thinking about. And I was just sitting there and I said, okay, so here I am, I've given X amount of years to, someone else's dream. I went into this to school, and I as a personal investment, yet it's the one thing that literally I talk about all the time. So even at work, I would be speaking about this, what are they, did you have breakfast? Okay, what did you have? Like, what are you having? Not in a micromanaging way, but just curious. Or they would come to me and they would ask me questions. And so, I think just having that sense of, I'm going to bet on myself, right? So I had other people that, came to me for advice, and I said, I was like, I've always wanted to own my business. My mom was telling me a story that when I was like very young, she's like, I came to her and I was like, Mom, I'm going to have a store and I'm going to name it like Sade Store. So like fashion, this is like, 5-year-old me. And, I remember, so as I was talking to her about going on this journey, and she's like, yeah, I'm not surprised because this is what you said to me at 5 years old. And so the encouragement of family, one, betting on myself, two, no, that's three. And then having that cushion is really important, was important for me. Everyone's situation is different. And then giving yourself that timeline. So, I think you have to know what are your non-negotiables, what are you going to feel, what can you let go of, because of course my lifestyle now versus my lifestyle then are very different. However, the peace that I have on a day-to-day basis, you can't even put money on it. And so you have to find out what those non-negotiables for you are. For me, it was, I wanted to wake up feeling, you know, at ease and peaceful. I wanted to have the freedom and flexibility to travel, to see my family. What is your why? Why are you doing this? Is it just because you don't like your job? Because I actually really enjoyed my job and I really enjoyed what I was doing. And so it wasn't that I didn't, that it was a job that, you know, I did not love. But again, I knew that I needed to serve in a different way. And so that's what the turning point was. So I gained all this amazing experience and, you know, was able to basically, I was able to get the foundation, if you will, in order to do what I'm doing now. But those non-negotiables are important, and then your why is important, because you need to come back to that, because starting a business, you know, it takes time. And I know that we're in the age of social media and we're seeing 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to do 5, 10K months. And that's just not, you know, everybody, right? And so you have to be able to anchor yourself when the clients may not be coming in, right? It's like, what is that important? What is that why for you? You have to be able to know what your non-negotiables are when you have, you know, that when your mind is playing with you and saying, okay, maybe you should apply for that job, or maybe you should take that interview. It's like, okay, does this line up with what my values are? But then also you should, you know, in terms of what my non-negotiables are. So I would say those are the two things that are really big. That would be big.
I think that's such an important and vital thing to talk about. Knowing your non-negotiables and betting on yourself. I think a lot of time when we're going through changes, or we're trying to navigate, it's so hard to be very hard on yourself, because you don't know what is coming up next. But there's that place of you knowing, like, why am I wanting to do this? And I always say to my clients, like, going through that exercise, and I learned this from one of the coaches that I have, and it's a 7 levels deep exercise where you literally keep asking yourself why.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want to run the business? Oh, my business is to get me flexibility. It's for me to gain financial freedom. And then he's asked me again, but why do you want to be financially free? It's like, okay, because I want to be able to maybe get yourself a purse, or maybe be able to help others. But why do you want to help others? And then the more that you keep asking yourself, like, then you answer the question, well, I want to help others because it makes me fulfilled. It gives me joy to see other people being fulfilled. But why does it give you joy to see other people fulfilled? Then it's that innermost part of you, until you get to that point where you're so broken, and that your why becomes like, this is non-negotiable. I am going to do it no matter how much bumps I get on the way, because you've answered all of those layers of the why. And all of those layers are significant, like they are breadcrumbs to the bottoms, the hoops that you're going to have to go through, because be rest assured that there are times where you would not want to carry on. But when you remember that layer of why do I want to see, why is it I want to spend time more with the kids? Okay, I want them to have a present mom, but why should I be the present mom? The more that you ask yourself that question, you're literally preparing your mind to that point where you're setting it. Like, when you get through to this difficult time, do this. Remember that this is why you're doing this. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times that the why is a stronghold of how you get through this, the hoops. Because life is going to be life in you. Life's us all, and you can't do anything about that. It's just which hand are you going to pull out to deal with the hand that life has dealt you. And so that brings me to my next question for you. That how did you keep going? Like, I know you mentioned the point of, like, you know, getting into community and all of that, but what is that thing that keeps you going, that keeps you ticking, even when the why is like, I just, you know, this is not going as planned. And how are you keeping, I know this is still a journey for you, which is so important to keep saying. So what keeps you going in this transition time for you?
Yeah, that's I mean it's so fitting because I just had a conversation with my coach yesterday, and we were talking about that why, and we were talking about just having that um anointing and that gift that really is important to keep going, because although as much as it is for me, it's for my why is for the generations. It's for my children, it's for my grandchildren, it's for my grandchildren's grandchildren, and so it keeps going. And so even though at times, because here's the thing, yeah, it's still a journey, and at times I'm like, am I really doing this? Is this really what I should be doing? And it does gonna come up, and it's not all reels and fun and out at wellness events and all that. That's part of it, but a lot of it is a lot of hard work behind the scenes. And for me, it really is, I have to come back to my why, and I have to also take myself back to where I was when I felt the most disconnected from myself. So for me, it's really just me walking into who I am, who I was built for, what I was built for, and knowing the difference of walking a path where you're not walking in that, and then walking in a path where you feel, even though you're wobbling and you're shaking and you're literally like that 8-month-old that's just learning to walk. I would rather do that than to waver and do something else. And so for me, it's really, I can't stop until until it is like, I don't even know what's going to get me to stop, but I just think that it's a path that I have to see to the end. One that I know is has been set for me, and similar to the path that I did for how many years. I knew when it was time to call it quits. I just think just being able to really be strong, be firm, and just confident in regards to even and not like a fake confidence, not a fake it till you make it. Like I'm talking, I don't. That's probably one of the worst. I think advice ever. It's a confidence that although I am going through this, I know that I will come out on the other side because I have in the past. And that's like the part that, again, you have to sit and talk. You have to go back to, when have I been in a situation where maybe I wanted to give up before? Okay, yeah, and then what happened? And again, for me, I think, and I know, like, a big part of it is my faith. Like, I know that God has called me to do great things, and he did it for me back then when I didn't think that it was possible. And I never thought I would be where I was. I didn't think I would be moving to a different country, and of all places, New York City, and being able to run teams and be able to do PR. And maybe I wasn't working in magazine, but I was still in fashion, and I still was fulfilling that dream. And here I am once again. There is this dream, and I think having seen individuals in my family deal with health issues, and myself, of course, like, that is something where it's like, if I can be a part of that, if I can be a part of prevention and or support and in that healing, I want to be as well. So it's multifaceted. I think while you're doing something, it is important, but also I think you need to also come back to yourself, and you need to also not come back to yourself. You need to also come back to that why. That's the one thing that keeps me going, I would say. I know I gave you a lot there, but at the end of it, it
No,
is the why.
yeah, that's so insightful. I mean, with your whole story and where you've come from and how you started, and we started by just telling us how you got true to the point where you started asking yourself questions, and then you got into like slowing down, and now you are like, okay, I slowed down, I've asked myself these questions, and then you talked about that, like having a coach. How has that really helped you to navigate this journey just before we wrap up? Because I know that a lot of times, sometimes we hear this, that you can go it on your own, you don't need anybody else, and I always say to people, no, that's absolutely wrong, because success always leaves clues. If I'm wanting to do something, and someone has done it and it took them 5 years to do, I don't want it to take me 5 years. I want to know what they did and what they learned and the mistakes that they made, because I don't want to spend 5 years doing it. If I can do it in 2 months, result. Because then when
Yeah.
I can tell somebody else, and it doesn't have to take them 2 months or a year to get to that next level. It's all about equipping each and every one of us. So how has that really evolved your transition phase, and how you navigate you running your own business at this point in time?
Yeah, no, I think I was supposed to, that was actually my second point. So the why, and then the community piece is another, in terms of how I keep going, I would add community, and I'll add that into this last piece. But having a community of, people who've done it before. And so, yes, definitely a coach has been important. And it was the first thing that I actually invested in. And it was scary because it was a lot of money that I'd never spent on a coach before. But then again, I sat, thought about it. Okay, what about my health? How much do I spend on my health? It's, I guess it's different, but in regards to something that I want and I'm gonna go after, and I know it's gonna get me results, I think, especially, and I've never done this before. So yes, I've run someone else's business. I have not ran my own business. So I haven't been ops and admin and sales and marketing and for myself. And as we know, it's very different than when you have like a full team behind you. And so for me, it's definitely important to find someone that you relate to, someone who's done what you've done and has had results, and someone that is aligned with your values. I probably would not. It probably would be. It would be more. It would definitely be difficult to keep going if I did not have that soundboard. And then on top of coaches, I think just, a community. And I know it can be difficult as entrepreneurs to have a community, but, even if it's one or two people, that's all you need. You just need someone to text sometimes when you're like, yeah, so that reel that I posted, or, that client that I thought was going to be a prospect turned out to be a no, like really feeling disheartened right now. And you just want someone to, whatever it is you need,
Understand.
hey, do you want to talk about it? Yeah, do you need to talk about it? Do you need to, just like, do you need my advice? Do you need, what do you need from me, basically? So that community piece is for sure also important. But I would say, if you can, invest in a coach. And at the end of the day, I think I started off with just what did I need at that time, and being clear in terms of what you need. Because sometimes we might get coaches that, because we think we need a coach to help us with X, but what we actually need is a coach to help us with Y. So knowing where you're at in terms of your business is also important, because then you don't want to waste any money in regards to investment. But at the end of the day, is it a waste? Because you're investing in yourself. And so I would say, and I just thought, I'm like, well, is it a waste? And so you might learn something. I remember I went through a program, and it was very, not over my head, but these individuals, they were, years ahead of me. And I said, I want to be in there. And, I was, and I learned so much. And, it could have been disheartening and been like, oh my goodness, like, is this where I should be? But it's like, at the end of the day, I learned a lot. It gave me fire as well to see them, similar to what you're doing right now in terms of Untold stories. Untold, yeah. Right?
So yeah, you got it.
Told stories. It gave me it showed me what is possible. And so I would definitely, you know, make sure that you're investing in some way just to help that momentum. And so you also don't feel frustrated. Because I think sometimes why people, and I could see why people might give up, is because they're starting to get frustrated because what they're doing isn't helping, isn't
Yeah.
working, pardon me, to give them the results that they're looking for.
Mhm.
And so when you have someone, though, that can help navigate and support you through, you're also going to want to keep going.
That's absolutely true because um that thing always sticks with me that sometimes it's good to not to go alone because like you say when you are lost, when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling discouraged, having like-minded people around you, people who are going through the exact same thing, people who understand that journey, people who can cheer you on when, you know, like to say, like when you first start, you know, there are going to be hoops and bumps and, you know, things that would happen along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But people who understand that this is the nature of it and it doesn't mean that your dreams are invalid. It just means that you have to push further.
Yeah.
It means that you have to stay consistent. It means that you have to continually invest in yourself. And I think that's the one thing that I would take away from that part of what you said, investing in yourself, because you're not wasting any money. No money is wasted when you are acquiring knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how much the knowledge is, because when you are pouring into yourself, it might not be that you need it right now, but the fact that you're in that environment, you're creating that, you're also shifting your mindset to the realm of possibilities
Mm-hmm.
that can happen for you in that stage of your life and in the next and the next and the next phase of your life. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Before we wrap up, before we go, one thing I always ask our ladies who come in here is to say, what is the one thing that you would say to that person who is wanting to step to her next level? That woman who is hesitant because she doesn't know what's ahead. What are the three things that you would say that you need the most for you to really like step out of and do that uncomfortable thing?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good one. Three things. I would say, first, you know, I mean, I gave the example in terms of how I started, right? So I went back to school, I did this, and I was doing it part-time. I won't even say side hustle. I mean, I guess you can call it side hustle for a couple of times, for a couple of years, pardon me. So if there's something that you're wanting to do, I would say go slow to go fast. You'll see there's a theme in what I say: slow, slow, slow. You know, it's like we just need to like stop waiting for, you know, stop wanting this instant and quick things to come to us. So I would say if there's something that you're passionate about, test it out. Whether it's a product, whether it's you know, whether it's product-based, service-based, I would say that's something first. Second, faith. Third, if you hear a no, it's just a not right now.
Right. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Go slow to go fast because I noticed that everything that you said, it's been in slowness. But the one thing I want to emphasize to that woman who is watching and listening, or just has come across this in the fly, go slow doesn't mean stay inactive. It doesn't mean not present. It doesn't mean not doing. Because
Yeah.
it's in the place of doing that you get the experience, you get the learning, you get to make the mistakes, you get to expand on ideas, you get to ditch things. So going slow, it doesn't mean stay stagnant.
No.
It doesn't mean stay inactive. You have to
Exactly.
keep going, you have to keep doing. It's a present, continuous thing that you have to keep, you know, evolving and do. And evolution never comes from the place of just, you know, living in fear or living in the place of limitation. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you keep doing that, even though you're doing it slowly, but you're taking one teeny tiny step towards that next level. So thank you so much for sharing your amazing story with us. Where can the people find you? Tell us, where can the people find you?
Yes, yes. I'm most active on Instagram. So Sade Thomas Nutrition is the handle. And I do have a website as well where there's blogs. I used to do a podcast. It's on there as well. And if you are looking for any support within gut hormonal health from a registered nutritionist, you can always book a call, and that's also in the link in my bio on Instagram.
Okay, so what's your Instagram handle, so that if you can spell it out so that we can pin
sure.
it.
Yes, SadeThomas nutrition, so NutriTion. And then my website is my first and last name, so SadeThomas.com.
Okay, and just let me know if we get it, if I get it right. Thank you so much. This has been so insightful.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you like sharing your story, because I know that story, it's so amazing, because a lot of women don't know that there's a connection, once again with what we put in our mouth to how we feel. There's a lot of women who are in that phase where they want to take that next leap, but they're too afraid to do it. There's a lot of women who feel like we're in that mundane place, but we're just afraid to slow down because we don't want to hear ourselves. Because in hearing ourselves, you know that it's time for you to make that big move. And if there's one thing I've taken from your story, is to know that if slowing down to connect with yourself, it doesn't mean that you can't step forward. It just means that you have to really take the time to connect with yourself, so that you can get the clarity to get to the next level. So I appreciate you for sharing your story and for hanging out with us. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Let us know if there are any offers that you would want us to, or the people, to come and experience. I know you talked about your coaching, your one-to-one program. So is there any offers that you would want the people to know about?
So I do have, so I have a 3-week and a 3-month and a 6-month coaching program that I have right now, and I focus on gut and hormonal health, and how I do that is through functional nutrition. So similar to what I said at the beginning in regards to using food to heal our bodies. So it's very there's a lot of education in terms of how food can heal, and then we also look at the lifestyle aspect of healing as well. So that is movement, that's sleep, that is movement, sleep, I'm blanking, mindset. And so that's those are the 2 offers that I have right now.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. We appreciate you, and keep doing and shining the light that you're doing, and wish you every success, every best, all the best that you can, need, wish at this point, because I know that this is through a transition in progress for yourself, and we're always connected, and there is support, where we're coming from, because that's how we got connected as well. And I'm so proud of the journey that the leap of faith that you've taken in yourself, and the journey that you're going through. And that we're always rooting for you. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
See you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Now we gotta take. Oh my! Did I just? Thank you so much for hanging out with us. This was such an amazing and insightful story that we had from Sade. It's so inspiring when you hear another woman's story, and you kind of see how they navigate the hands that life throws us each and every step of the way in our lives. And the one thing that I took from her story is doing it slow, like taking the time to be slow and be still, so that you can get the clarity, so that you can like recollect your thoughts, finding solace in the place of like-minded people, connecting, knowing your why, always going back to your why, getting a coach, making sure that you're investing in yourself. Such insightful nugget that she shared with us. I hope that you learned a thing or two about being still, even in the movement of transition, because being still doesn't mean that you should be inactive. We talked about that. Being still means that you keep going. Take one foot in front of the other, one tiny step in front of the other. So thank you so much. This is At Your Bridge, a home for women who are navigating life changes to build their confidence, to get clear, and to also learn how to build a service-based business so that they can generate they can generate wealth, not get rich, but they can generate wealth that transcends generations. So thank you for hanging out with us. We have our one-to-one program with Thrive is opening up in September. So if you are going through that change that we've talked about and you're looking for where you can find support, resource, accountability, and where you can build that confidence for you to get you to your next level, then you want to register for our Thrive program. Get yourself onto our discovery call. It's on the bio where you can book a discovery call with myself, and we can really map out and see how we can support you and get you to your next level, because your journey is unique to you. Never let anybody tell you less. You are unique and your journey is valid wherever you are starting from. So until next week, when we have an amazing untold story from another inspirational woman. Stay inspirational, stay moving. If you need to slow down, do so. But don't forget that your dreams and your voice is valid. I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.